established rich coming right back at you. And today we talking about something that looks simple on the surface, but it's really a lot deeper than people realize. A father gifted his son 40 acres of land, and somehow that turned into a debate about intelligence. Now, before we even get into Vlad or anybody else, let's start with the moment that started all of this. A black father proudly boasting that he gave his son something real, something tangible, something that can't be taken away overnight.
Fahim recently turned 13. He gave him 40 acres.
I thought it would be a great opportunity to teach him a life lesson about the value of land.
It's like, because like there's no city lights out here, so you get to no pollution, stuff like that, so you get to see like clear sky, you can see all the stars and stuff. It was fun.
13-year-old Fahim has some ideas for his property.
You could build like ATVs like around like, the whole thing. It's like wants to build a zip line from the mountain.
And even though they're right beside the border wall, they've had no problems. Out here, these city kids enjoy their own private open space.
Now I want you to picture that for a second. Not just the land, but what the moment represents. Because 40 acres for black Americans ain't just a number. It's a promise that was never kept. It's history. It's reparations without the check ever coming. So when a black father gives his son 40 acres today, that's not just a gift. That's a statement. That's him saying, I'm going to give you what they never gave us. And that right there is where people like Vlad missed the point.
Brothers as well, because a father went to Instagram, went to Twitter, and it got posted up on different blogs. And my mixtapes said, California father gives his son 40 acres of land for his 15th birthday instead of buying him a luxury present. 100. We could grow a legacy. We could create generational wealth. Well, Vlad saw this and said, this sounds cool on social media, but what exactly are you buying? A bunch of undeveloped land that looks like it's nowhere near a major city. Unless his son spends hundreds of thousands developing that land, it won't appreciate. Everyone who says land is something they're not making more of is making a stupid argument. The majority of the world is land that nobody cares about, which will never go up in value. This is why I bought my kids stock portfolios in strong companies. Vlad stocks coming soon. So then somebody told Vlad, hey Vlad, you can't tell someone not to buy one asset because it can be worthless, while also telling people to buy another asset that can at any time be worthless.
Now for real. Tell me where you hear ignorance at. Tell me where you see a lack of intelligence. Tell me where you see a bad decision. What I see is a man thinking long term. What I see is a man teaching ownership. And then here comes Vlad. Now Vlad comes in and does what he always does. He takes his perspective and tries to make it the standard for everybody else. And his argument basically comes down to this. Stocks would have been a better investment. Now on paper, that sounds like a conversation. But the way it was said, that's what turned it into a problem. Now let's break that down without emotion. Let's just use logic. Stocks do have higher liquidity. Stocks can compound over time. That part is true. Nobody is denying that. But here's where the argument falls apart. Why are you assuming that his father don't understand that too? Why are you assuming that this is his only investment strategy? That's where it stops being advice and starts becoming arrogance. Because you're not just critiquing the decision. You questioning the mind behind it. And that's a pattern. See, this ain't really about land versus stocks. This is about controlling a narrative. Who gets to define what smart looks like? Who gets to define what success looks like? And too many times, black success only gets validated when it mirrors somebody else's system. But land don't need validation. Land don't crash like stock. Land don't disappear because of a CEO's decision. Land just sits there and waits for you to build on it. And that's what this father is teaching his son. Not just ownership, but control. Control over what you build. Control over what you pass down. And that's a different type of wealth. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like stocks don't have value, because they do. But the real question is, why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't this kid have land and a portfolio? Why can't he learn how to build something physical and also understand digital wealth? That's what a balanced mind looks like. But that balance got lost in the conversation because the delivery was disrespectful. And when you remove respect from advice, it stops being helpful and starts feeling like judgment. And that's where this thing really shifted, because now it's not about investments no more. It's about culture. Listen, the truth is, you can listen to hip hop, but you can't speak for us. Because the problem is not just what Vlad said, it's where he said it from.
I'd imagine being promised a new life with 40 acres and a mule. But the real origin of this promise, it's a tale worth telling. The famous promise of 40 acres and a mule is often attributed to Union General William T. Sherman. But here's the twist. Sherman only promised the land. The mule came later. This radical idea wasn't just Sherman's doing. It was born from an unprecedented meeting on January 12, 1865, between Sherman, Secretary of War Edwin M. Stanton, and 20 black leaders in Savannah, Georgia. These leaders, mostly ministers, sought land for self-sufficiency. Sherman listened and 4 days later issued Special Field Order No. 15. The order reserved 400,000 acres for newly freed slaves. It was a historic step towards land redistribution and black self-governance. Yet this visionary program was short-lived. President Andrew Johnson overturned it, returning land to former Confederate owners. The dream of 40 acres and a mule remains a powerful symbol of unfulfilled promise. But now you know the real history behind it.
You can study hip-hop, you can profit from hip-hop, but that does not mean you understand the black American experience. And that's not hate, that's the truth. Because culture ain't something you watch, it's something you live. You don't inherit it through music, you inherit it through history. And that's what's missing from his tape. Because if you understood history, you would have understood what 40 acres mean. You would have understood why that hit different. You would have understood why people defended that father. But instead, you spoke on it like it was just numbers. And that's been a pattern. This ain't the first time Vlad has inserted himself into a conversation like this. And it probably won't be the last. You got the Farrakhan situation, where he spoke on something he clearly didn't have full context on.
I'd like to apologize to Minister Farrakhan for misquoting him back in 2020. Period.
There you go.
No ifs, but, or anything else like that. Point blank, period. This is what I'm doing on your show.
Now that's honorable.
Thank you.
That's honorable.
And also, let me just say, this was not a decision based on pressure by anybody, by financial duress. It's not like I have to do this in order to turn the company around. The company's been doing fine all these years. It's not because I'm trying to get to a certain guest and by doing this and so forth. No, there's no reason behind this except for it's the right thing to do.
You got the incident where he tried to get a woman fired over a comment she made on social media.
DJ Vlad is receiving backlash on social media after threatening to call a woman's job over a disagreement over Drake/Kendrick rap beef. At DJ Vlad tweeted out, "Don't try to change your words now. I'll be reaching out to @Princeton about this on Monday." So DJ Vlad tweets out, "Kendrick's Not Like Us needed a better mix. It takes away from the song." Morgan Jerkins responded by tweeting out, "You are white. This is a black folk affair." DJ Vlad replied, "Wait, so a professor at Princeton is telling me that a white person shouldn't be allowed to voice their opinion about hip hop? Is that how you interact with your students?" And Morgan Jerkins responded, "What I'm saying is that you put your opinion in a discussion that's not needed. This conversation is and should center black people, not you."
And that showed a level of power play that don't sit right with people. And when you stack these moments together, you start to see a pattern of disconnect, not just from individuals, but from the culture itself. And that's why this 40 acres conversation blew up the way it did, because it wasn't just about land. It was about who gets to speak on our decisions. And more importantly, how they speak on. Now I'm gonna make this clear. It ain't nothing wrong with giving advice. It's nothing wrong with having a different perspective. But there is a way to do it. You don't walk into somebody else's house and start rearranging the furniture like you own it. You don't dismiss somebody else's decision without first understanding why they made it. And that's the part that was missing. Because if he would have said, "Hey, that's dope, and here's another option to consider," this would have been a completely different conversation. But that's not what happened. It came off like, "I know better than you." And that right there is always gonna create resistance. Now I'ma land like this. This ain't about land versus stocks. This is about ownership versus opinion. The father owns something. Vlad shared his opinion. And in life, ownership always outlasts opinion. Because 20 years from now, that land's still gonna be there. And that kid gonna have something he can build on. Something he can pass down. And that's the part people keep skipping over. We're not just talking about money. We're talking about legacy. And legacy don't always show up on a stock chart. Sometimes it looks like 40 acres. And a father who understood exactly what that meant. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.